And it was during that summer too that I started listening to your podcast because I started to go, okay, is this possible in my situation?
Yeah.
And I started listening, and you were having people that had done GPA repair and had done post-bacs and master's programs. But I realized it was possible and that my situation wasn't totally unique.
Yeah.
I thought that, I was alone, and I wasn't.
Keith, welcome to the Premed Years podcast. How are you today?
Doing good. How about yourself?
I am great. Quarantined, self-isolated, all those fun things during this COVID pandemic. But I'm excited to chat with you. I got an email from you saying you're a first-year medical student and you had to overcome a pretty abysmal undergraduate GPA. Let's start the conversation with when you first realized you wanted to be a physician, because I'm excited to hear if that undergraduate GPA was part of your pre-med process or not.
It was part of my pre-med process. So I kind of wanted to always go into the medical field. My mom is a pharmacist, and I had always been in the hospital growing up as a kid. And I went to school for biochemistry, and I got there and I flopped. It was hard. I didn't put in the work and did well in high school, and didn't do what I needed to do when I got there, and I got smacked.
Yeah. Did you start undergrad thinking about pharmacy, becoming a pharmacist? Because biochemistry fits with that pretty well.
I didn't know. I was kind of between pharmacy and medicine.
Okay.
In PhD route. I didn't really know what I wanted to do. And I think that confusion really, being misguided didn't help me at all.
Yeah.
It didn't really set me up for success.
Yeah. And I talk about that a lot with having your plan A and not having a plan B. You kind of had all of these plans out there and you're like, I don't really know. So without having that clear goal in mind, the why in mind, it sounds like you were just not motivated to do what you needed to do to get to that point because you didn't know what that point was.
Yeah. And I was just kind of bumbling along for the first couple of years.
Yeah.
And then after that, I realized, oh man, I'm not going to be able to do anything after I graduate, and tried to fix my GPA a little bit. And by the time I finished, my last couple of years, I pulled it up to about a 3, just kind of coasting a little bit. But when I graduated, it was like in the 2.7 range.
Yeah.
It was bad.
Yeah. So not great. Along that path, when you were in undergrad, were you getting advising from a pre-health advisor telling you like, hey, this isn't going to work for you, you should go pick something out? Like, who was motivating you or distracting you on the way?
I was, I had talked to pre-med advisors. I went to the University of Michigan for undergrad.
Okay.
And their pre-med shop there is huge. They have a lot of pre-med advisors. They take good care of you. And they basically told me, dude, your chances are shot at this point unless you do some serious repair.
Okay.
And
I'm glad they at least offered that serious repair part, because a lot of the pre-health advisors are like, your chances are shot, go do something else.
Yeah. I talked to a few people and it was half and half. It was either you're done or, you can fix it, but you're going to have to work.
Good. Okay. All right. And so what did that work look like for you?
I mean, it just was sitting down and studying and not goofing off and going to hang out with friends and being serious about class. I really liked what I was studying, but, I went, what's the minimum that I can do to get a B? And I coasted with a biochem degree. And when I graduated, I saw a lot of my friends go on to medical school. They did very well. They did well on their MCAT. I realized that my next step would either be to do a post-bac or to do grad school, to do a master's.
Yeah.
And my last year I applied for grad school, took the GRE, did well.
Okay.
And I talked to my advisors and they all said, dude, if you don't fix it now, you're done. You're not going to be able to do anything.
Yeah.
And so went for a traditional master's back at University of Michigan in biochem.
Okay. And what was the switch for you to actually start doing well? Was it that kind of being having that ultimatum almost of like, this is it, so you buckled down and finally did what you needed to do?
Yeah, that's exactly what it was. I had my favorite professor. I went and talked to him,
Mhm.
and I had a couple acceptances for grad school. And he sat me down and he said, you know, I know you can do the work. I did pretty well in his class. And he said, you know, if you do well, you have the ability to get all A's. And he said, you're going to have to do that if you want to go on to pharmacy or med school. And I decided that I wanted to do med school.
Yeah.
And I did it. I went through grad school. It was hard, but I got near a 4.0.
How much of him sitting you down and actually saying you have the ability to get A's did that give you the confidence to go, oh yeah, I guess I can, and now I can do it?
Yeah, it did a lot for me to hear that.
Mm-hmm.
It just wasn't him. It was my professor from that program and the program director for my master's program. And they both said, you can do well. We've seen what you can do.
Yeah.
And, seeing a lot of my friends do well, they're incredibly smart people. I didn't have the confidence.
Yeah.
And I didn't think that I could do it. And, I didn't think that I was like them in any way. But that was far from the truth. I was just lazy.
And I bring that up because it's one of those things that I'm a firm believer in. Who you surround yourself just makes a huge difference. And maybe the people, the other students you were hanging out with the first couple of years of school, obviously big sports school, you were enjoying the partying, all that fun stuff. Those weren't the people that were telling you, hey, Keith, you're smart, you can get straight A's. They're like, hey, Keith, come party. And it took being surrounded by some people who were in a position of power to say, you can do this. They were like, oh yeah, I can. Right. And I always kind of give the analogy of the first person who happened to be a physician. I think it was a medical student at the time who broke the 4-minute mile to go and show all of the other runners out there, like, oh, I guess it can be done. And then everyone started to do it. Right? It's just having that mental switch. And so you had that mental switch finally, and a little bit of pressure, right? That ultimatum. What was the difference for you in terms of really sacrificing from undergrad to your master's program to get those A's? What did your life look like differently wise?
So during my last 2 years of undergrad, I was working a lot in a natural products lab making cancer drugs from bacteria. And I was like all about this research, man.
Mm-hmm.
It was everything, and spending, 20 hours a week in the lab. And I had to shut that off and go, I can't do this anymore. I got to focus on school.
Mm-hmm.
And just taking all that energy and time and putting it into school was what did it.
Yeah. Were you working in that lab for pay, or like, did you have to work, or you were just doing it because you thought it was fun and potentially good for your application?
I was doing it for application building and for fun. I really did like it. I really liked chemistry and I really liked drugs, and, I really liked what I was doing, but it was hurting me in the long run. It was capping my potential. I was getting near a 3 and I could have been doing better.
Okay. Awesome. At what point in your master's program did you finally figure out medical school versus pharmacy school versus something else?
So I went in knowing that I wanted to do med school. I took some time that summer before I started grad school, and I reflected. And I looked at everything that I had done, and I went, medicine is it. I'm going to do it. And I sat down with my advisor and we worked out a plan so that I could study for the MCAT and do grad school. So it was that summer that really did it for me.
Okay. And obviously having that goal in mind, that why are you studying so hard? Why are you motivating yourself to do this? You finally had that one clear picture, which I'm assuming helped a lot as well.
Yeah. And it was during that summer too that I started listening to your podcast, because I started to go, okay, is this possible in my situation?
Yeah.
And I started listening, and you were having people that had done GPA repair and had done post-bacs and master's programs. And I didn't listen to the part of doing a traditional master's.
Yeah.
It's, from my experience, it's been a post-bac usually sets people up better than a traditional master's. But I realized it was possible and that my situation wasn't totally unique.
Yeah.
I thought that, I was alone, and I wasn't.
Yeah, definitely not alone. So you went on your journey. You're in your master's program. You're buckled down. You're doing well. What was the MCAT like for you?
Um, MCAT, it was fine. I took it once. I did well. When I was in grad school, I spent a couple hours a day studying that on top of grad school. I
Mhm.
went ham and I did everything that I could to relearn the material that I had missed in my undergrad and rehash that and make sure that my understanding was good.
Yeah,
And what was good about that too is because I was doing a biochem master's, a lot of that resurfaced as relevant material in my master's.
yeah,
So I think that it did help my GPA to go over all the Kaplan books and really invest myself in that material.
awesome. When it came to applying to medical school, when you're trying to figure out what school should I apply to, obviously with a poor undergraduate GPA, with a really good master's GPA, how did you figure out what schools would even give you a shot?
Um, so in Michigan, they tell you that if you do a master's, a couple of the schools will take a look at you after a certain credit count,
Mhm.
either 16 or 20 credits.
Yep.
And I went, okay, I can apply to these schools and they'll look at me and take me seriously. My MCAT was good enough. Um, you know, and I went, I'm going to apply DO as well because to me, growing up in Michigan, we have MSU
Yep.
and having all the DOs around me, it really didn't make a difference.
Yep.
It was MD or DO, who cares? Um,
Yeah, it's interesting to have that one example of obviously a really large state school that has both a human medicine. It's funny they call it human medicine, but an MD program and a DO program basically on the same campus. That I think for a lot of students in that area will go, well, I guess they're equivalent if the school has both of them.
yeah,
Yeah,
they're in
good.
the same building too, from what I understand.
That's
And
awesome.
it's weird. I know people at both,
Yeah.
and they used to have the classes together, from what I understand.
Hmm.
And I don't think that's the case anymore.
Yeah.
But I ended up getting an interview there too,
Okay.
and I didn't make it in there,
Yeah.
but
To the human medicine or the osteopathic medicine?
osteopathic.
Okay.
All the interviews that I ended up getting were at DO schools.
Interesting. Why do you think that is?
I think that DO schools are more accepting of non-traditional students. I
Hmm.
find that a lot of people in my class, especially, have had the same journey that I have, or they're older, or they have kids,
Hmm.
stuff like that.
Yeah.
And I just think it's that accepting, we're going to accept you for who you are.
Yeah. What was your GPA? Would you mind sharing? I'm not your GPA,
My
your MCAT score?
my MCAT score ended up being a 506.
Okay. So not like blow it out of the water, give everyone like warm fuzzy feelings that you're overcoming your GPA with a strong MCAT. Okay. But
Yeah,
good
but
enough
looking at
for
the
a lot of
averages in
schools.
the state, they were about a 507
Yep.
for the MD schools, and I should have been aiming for a higher MCAT
Yeah.
for going for those schools.
Yeah. Okay. So you applied to medical schools. Did you reach out to any beforehand and have conversations with them to say, hey, here's who I am, here's what my undergraduate GPA is, here's what my master's GPA is? What did those conversations look like, and why were you reaching out to begin with?
Yeah, I did. I reached out to MSU I went
Mhm.
and visited them. I reached out to a couple of the other MD schools and toured them and talked to program directors. And, they said that they have applications like this and, they've seen people have success. And,
Mhm.
you know, it's just, if we like you, we'll take you and interview you.
Yeah.
And, it didn't happen for the MD programs, but DO it did. And it felt really good.
Yeah. Do you think there was something different in your application that, besides the non-traditional aspect, do you think there was something in your application that osteopathic schools potentially grabbed onto a little bit more?
I don't know. I think my focus is really family medicine, is
Mhm.
what I want to do. And, a lot of people go, ew, family med. But it's that, yeah, it's weird, right? I felt, I kind of feel at home. And I don't know what it is, but I felt like I really clicked with that philosophy. I like working with my hands. I have no idea what it was.
Mhm.
Maybe I'm a hippie. Who knows? I have no idea.
Yeah. Yeah, but it worked. How many interviews did you end up going on?
3.
3 interviews.
So
Yeah.
I had NYIT, MSU, and ARCOM.
Okay. And how did you prepare for those interviews?
Well, I'm looking behind you. I read the interview book that you wrote, which was awesome.
Great.
And I had a couple of friends. One of them, when she got her first interview, I got that book for her because it helped me a lot. And she ended up getting an acceptance.
Nice.
And it helped me a lot.
Awesome. I'm glad it helped. What do you think it helped with?
I think it helped ease my fears
Yeah.
of going into a situation where I didn't feel comfortable. And some of the things that you talk about are talking about hiccups that you've had and overcoming some of your background.
Yeah.
And for me, it was a lot about just owning it, moving on, saying, I'm going to be an adult about this and accept who I am.
Yeah. What'd you learn from it?
Strengths of your app.
Yeah. When you got your first acceptance, what was that like?
Oh my God. I was bouncing off the walls. I was just going completely nuts. Called every person that I knew. I was just, it felt like Christmas, Christmas on steroids. It was great.
Who was the first person you called?
I was with my girlfriend, now my fiance, and she had just pulled in the driveway, and I was on the phone with the admissions director who had just called me. Holy crap! I just got in. Holy crap! And we were just like dancing in the driveway. It was great.
That's awesome. At the end, you went on 3 interviews. How many acceptances did you end up with?
1.
Just the 1. What do you think happened at the other schools?
MSU Com. I interviewed late at all these places. I interviewed February.
Okay.
January, February. My first interview was NYIT. I wasn't confident. I talked a lot about my blunders. I felt I got tunnel vision when I got pulled into the interview.
Yeah.
I know I flubbed it.
Yeah.
MSU Com, I have no idea. It just might have been when I interviewed. It was either my performance or whatever. And RCOM, I did fine. So.
Yeah. Why do you think you interviewed so late? When did you actually submit your applications?
June.
Okay. So you submitted early.
Yeah.
Okay.
I think it was just, and then I applied to RCOM late. I applied to RCOM and NYIT pretty late. And that was like October to December I applied to those.
Okay. And when you say you applied, so just for the student listening or watching this, you mean you added those schools to your application, right?
Yeah. Okay. I'd already filled out a COMIS and then I forward the application to them.
Yeah. Okay. Now, just probably my assumption, a lot of schools will get all of their applications and look at them and kind of rank them and sort them by GPA, by MCAT. Obviously, with your weak undergraduate GPA, your good but not stellar MCAT score, you're probably just further down the list by the time they got to you. It was just later in the cycle. But obviously, they had slots. You got those interviews, and you got the 1 acceptance. When you finally got that acceptance, what was the time between when you graduated undergrad to when you actually started medical school?
It was a couple of years.
Yeah.
I think it was 2 years.
Yeah. And how many? Go ahead.
No, what was that? I'm sorry.
I was going to say, how many credits did you end up taking in your master's program?
30. I think it was 30.
So good chunk. 2 years worth, it sounds like.
It was a year program.
Oh,
so
wow.
It was
pretty
lot
heavy.
Of them are like that in a year. So.
Okay. All right. Pretty heavy there. Okay. And you said you're interested in family medicine. Do you think that'll change as you go through medical school? What are you thinking will happen during medical school?
I'm all over the place, man.
Yeah.
I'm just like, everything looks good to me right now. I love everything. And a lot of my faculty are family. They really push for that. And I'm also interested in stuff like psych. And whenever I bring anything else like that up, they're like, oh yeah, you do that in family or you do that in internal,
Yeah.
And I'm just saying that as the default for now, because, you're a jack of all trades. And that's what I like about that. But we'll see.
Yeah.
We'll see.
With the COVID pandemic going on right now, almost every school is kind of out at this point and doing distance learning. How has your school adjusted to that? How have you adjusted to distance learning?
So they moved us totally online. And It's kind of an adjustment, not really. You sit behind a computer 24/7 basically in med school.
Yeah.
That's your life. And I came home. And I think that's the biggest change is just coming off of campus and coming home. They told us just go home. All of our exams are online. They moved them open book because they basically said, we know the test scores are going to go up, wink, wink. It is what it is.
It is what it is. Yeah.
So it feels really disjointed. OMM, we can't really practice. So I've been grabbing people that are around me and it's like, hey, let me try this technique on you. My doctoring class, I can't really do much with that.
Yeah.
So I feel like I'm missing out a little bit, but at least I'm not in third or fourth year where I'd be hurt on rotation.
Yeah. Yeah, medical schools are scrambling to figure out what they're going to do with those students to meet the requirements for graduation and all that fun stuff. So I do not envy students at this point in the middle of med school having to adjust to this. Every student, even in undergrad, they're adjusting to this new life that will hopefully be temporary for just a couple months. So,
yeah, hopefully.
Oh, Keith, I appreciate your time and you sharing your story. For the student listening to this who struggled in undergrad but knew that they wanted to go to medical school or knows that they want to go to medical school, for the student in undergrad who's being told like your chance is shot or your chance is shot, you're going to have to do a lot of repair, what words of wisdom do you have for them as they go on their journey?
I think you got to sit yourself down and ask yourself, do you really want to do this? And that's what it took for me. Is it took that time being grounded out of school to realize this is what I wanted and this is what I'm going to have to do to be successful. And you can be successful. You can get interviews. You can be interviewed at good places if you put in the work. You can do well on the MCAT. But overcoming that is going to be hard. It's going to suck, but you can do it.